Hello again. Welcome back to the More People podcast. Here today with Andrew Fitzmaurice of More People and Alana Deakon of Driscoll's. Alana, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So in a world where people care increasingly about where their food comes from, we can talk about some soft fruit today. Maybe a brand or a business that people might have seen on packaging more than some others. But talk to us first of all about your background, your origin story. You're a University of Reading.
Yep.
Agriculture or
Yeah.
food?
No, I did agriculture. Yep. Straight ag. Learned a lot about sheep and arable. So not really the area I went into, quite funnily. So yeah, I grew up in Kenya on a flower farm and came over to study in Ireland because my granny lived there. Didn't get to see her a lot, obviously living in Kenya. And then I went to Reading. And when I was at Reading, I started to work with Hull Hunter. They were just down the road. So during the summer holidays, Christmas holidays, I'd go there. And then I'd go home once a year. Just, wanted to earn money, have a good time at uni. So going home was great, but you didn't get paid for working on the farm. So I prefer to get paid. So yeah, I did that. And then when I finished, started with Hull Hunter on their graduate scheme, worked my way through that, doing various bits and pieces. Then went to Kent to be farm manager for a couple of years, and then finished up there and went back to Hull Hunter again for a couple of years, doing something a bit different. I went into operations more. I think my variety of interests across the industry are quite broad, so it allowed me just to learn new part of the supply chain, which I really hadn't done before. And yeah, joined Driscoll's 18 months ago, working for production basically. So the conduit, if you like, between growers and a marketing desk where, sometimes you need to make sure both understand each other and that we're all, focusing on the vision and the goal.
What was it about the fruit industry? How did that happen?
I think watching my dad over the years with flowers, Mother's Day was just horrific, truly horrific. A day he did not enjoy. He didn't enjoy making sure there was enough production there, or if, there was going to be a disaster and then he didn't have enough, it was your biggest earning day. So I think, when I watched him during those, Valentine's, Mother's Day, these kind of things, you go, oh God, no, that's way too stressful. I don't want to be doing that. So we went for a trip in our horticulture modular. I was like, walking around the strawberry fields and blueberry fields and raspberry fields. You're like, yeah, I could do this. This is quite enjoyable. I don't like machinery. It's fair to say. I mean, I studied an agricultural degree. You need to know something to do with machinery. So I know what I need to know, but I'm not a kit expert as many others would say. I'm more of it's a necessity to do my job rather than a love of my job. So I was like, fruit tractors, brilliant, small machinery, I can get away with that. So so I, it's fast paced. There wasn't a lot of people going to it at that time. There was only 2 of us from all 3 years of my university years that went into fruit farming, funnily enough. So again, a strong pull that way, I knew there'd be opportunity for progression and working hard and all of those kind of things. But yeah, I think it's the fast pace, but it's a continuous fast pace. And I think that's what there's, of course there's fluctuations depending on supply and weather and all of those things, but, there's no one set day where it just goes bananas. It's come February when you start on Glasshouse all the way till December, you are busy. So it's nice to have that consistency throughout the year. Talking
about the consistency, it feels like the consumer, certainly in my home, in my fridge, it feels like the seasonality, the expectation around seasonality isn't there. The consumer expects to consistently have that product throughout the year, not just the peak around Wimbledon for strawberries. As an example, my kids want that in the fridge all the time. Is that a more modern construct, or has that been an evolution?
It's obviously been an evolution over time, but I certainly think over the last, 5-10 years, it's definitely, household penetration in each berries has gone up substantially. It's continuing to rise. There's no plateauing effect. Yes, okay, it is potentially a slower pace, but it's still very much there. Everybody wants it in their breakfast now. That's just, it's a household staple, really. And again, healthy snacks for kids. Blueberries obviously is very popular for that now in terms of snack pots, stuff like that. Instead of grabbing, a thing of almonds, go and grab a thing of blueberries. So, I think it's becoming a household staple. Penetration is still there. It's growing. Everybody just, is having it on a more day-to-day basis. So
how do you maintain the product quality? Because without being too shameless in a plug or being a fanboy, but the quality of Driscoll's products seems so high. I know when we don't buy every week, but when we do buy Driscoll's products, the quality seems stupidly high, and the lay consumer isn't cognizant of where in the world it might have come from or how the variety might have changed. They just expect this commoditized, consistently high product 365. How do you maintain and manage that expectation?
First of all, thanks. I'll take it that we're pretty good. Quality is number one. If you're not going to get that repeat purchase, then, you're kind of dead in the water. So ensuring that repeat purchase is really important. So quality, it fluctuates, is the honest truth. We try to maintain the best quality that we can at all times of the year. But if you've had 2 weeks of non-stop rain and, warm temperatures, it's inevitable that you're going to have some issues. So I suppose it's a balance. There will be certain times of the year where shelf life is impacted, not because we want it to not be, but just, the berries are not as strong because you've just had 95% humidity for 2 weeks and you're putting up the vents on tunnels one moment, the next minute you're pulling it down because it's raining. There's a lot of fluctuations. So I suppose the best way, to manage it is the growers. The growers know what they're doing. They've been doing it for years.
On this podcast, as we were talking about earlier, we're grateful and blessed that we get to pull lots of different experts from the whole supply chain. So we'll pull in people who are breeders and entomologists and seed people, and then we'll go through the supply chain. We get technical experts on here. We'll talk about people who do robotics. Some of the roles, I think, are more easy to understand than others. If you work in marketing, people make an assumption. If you work as a commercial manager, people make an assumption. If you're a buyer, you're a buyer. Production and operations is often harder to quantify and means different things depending on which food product you're working with.
Yes.
But as the glue in that organization, what does your role encompass? How do you explain to your friends who in the pub who aren't food
who aren't
people?
agriculture? Driscoll's about 18 months ago, they obviously acquired Berry Gardens a couple of years ago, and they needed a link between the growers and the central desk. And it's not to say that the growers don't understand the central marketing desk, or the marketing desk doesn't understand the growers. I think there's certainly a partial understanding there, but I think sometimes it's having someone in the middle who finds those compromises, who, that is our goal together. Ultimately, you want to sell your fruit, we want to sell your fruit. That is it, when it really, you boil it down to it. So I think it's keeping it balanced on both sides, and again, having honest and open conversations with growers, because we've been there. I mean, I'm from a farming background, so we've got 3 production managers and we all focus on different berries. It's having those tough but honest conversations with growers, knowing that we've been there, or vice versa, having a good conversation with them and potentially going to Driscoll and going, come on, is there anything more we can do on this subject? And they're like, oh, okay, well, actually, if we do this. But obviously, they may not have thought about that because, they're there to focus on their core jobs, really. So ultimately, aligning supply and demand and making sure both sides of the picture are doing whatever they can to ensure that alignment of supply and demand.
So there's a lot of plates to spin.
Many.
You've learned that skill.
Many.
How much of it is Kent-centric or UK-centric, or do you get pulled to the corners of the world?
At the moment, the main focus is on the UK. It's getting the UK correct. We spent a lot of money buying a business a couple of years ago, and we need to make sure it's working for the growers and for us. So, we've got a bit more work to do there, just tightening systems, stuff like that we need to improve. Vice versa, growers, we've got several different pack houses, and maybe we need to start thinking about consolidation and trying to make efficiencies that way. So you don't know, but we'll never nail it. I'd love to meet a grower that says their marketing desk has nailed it, because I will ask them how that marketing desk did it. But, when growers are largely, there, and we are there and successful as well with them, then start focus on Northern Europe a little bit more, Poland, Romania, all of those kind of places. And how can we supply Europe with fruit that's closer to those marketing areas? The sales in Germany, can we grow in Germany? Those kind of things.
Over lunch, we were talking about career development. We're talking about bringing people into the sector and the longevity in a role or a company. And we know this industry is demonstrably great at bringing people in and progressing them. The role you've got spinning so many plates, it feels to me like it lends itself to going wherever you want to go. Where do you think your role might lead next?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough. The companies I've worked for have invested a lot in me to allow me to grow so quickly. I think that's certainly a shout out to anyone listening that may have helped me on my way. Where would I see myself? Something solutions based. I love the whole supply chain. I wouldn't say I love growing more than I love transport and logistics and the efficiencies that can come from that. I'm very much a lean person when I think in terms of efficiency, and I enjoy that. So find the magic, I think I'd call it. You know, I worked in a few companies where you find the magic, everything just works. People are motivated, they're in the right position, you know, they just want to progress, they want to, you know, do it. Someone's coming after your job in a positive way. You know, that's that, yeah, if I could do something that leads people towards that, really motivated, progressing them in life, stuff like that, yeah.
We go and talk to places like Reading, Newcastle, Harper, the RAU. We'll go and talk to those students.
Yeah.
What else can we be doing as an industry to try and pipeline more of that talent into fruit or produce?
You know, if you go to these careers fairs, even at the agriculture colleges, the honest truth is there's not a lot of fruit representation there ever, if at all. Maybe one or two, if that's a local university to the business. So I think there's a lot more we could be doing. You know, MDS do it well. They do it really well. You know, they've got loads of different people from different areas. They apply, go work in different areas, figure out what they want. I think there's a lot of younger people, and again, so I'm chairman of the Next Gen Fruit Group, which is about 350 members. Everybody grows fruit. That's what we do. You know, I don't think we're very good at representing ourselves, even with those current universities. And that's with people studying agriculture. You know, they know they want to go into farming. And then you've got this huge talent pool that MDS seem to attract, be it historians, geography people. You know, they're doing it well. I think we can learn a lot from how they're doing it. You can't attend every single careers fair across the UK, absolutely. But that's where maybe something like British Berry Growers or British Apples and Pears, and I know they're thinking about it, so it's not to say that they're not, but, you know, having a representation where maybe you take 2 growers to this event and then 2 growers. So, you know, you're splitting it up, but you're all working towards that common goal, having a website where people can go, they can see, you know, who can apply where, even if you're not from a farming background, because there is a talent pool. We just need to draw it in and also make sure it's a realistic talent pool. I think that's probably something else I'd add to it. You know, it is a hard job. You can't just come in and expect to have every weekend off. And I think there's more of a work-life balance coming in the sector. I mean, when I started out, God, I don't think I had a weekend off for about 5 years. And it got hard. It got really hard to the point where I was considering what else I should do, because I don't mind working hard. That's not an issue. But, you know, when you want to have a bit of a life, social life, and the rest of your friends are off on a weekend, it is hard. So I think it's, finding that balance, but also making sure that anyone coming in is very clear on, you know, this is not a 9-to-5 job. You know, if you've got fruit coming out your ears, you need to stay there till 7 p.m. and get down in it. But hey, then come December, it's dark at 3 p.m, off you go, enjoy yourself. You know, you don't need to stay around. So I think it's finding that kind of balance. So I think it's a bit of both. Certainly us making sure people know the expectations of the industry, because we don't want anyone coming and, you know, it's something completely different. But also I think we do need to do a lot more together in order to bring people into the industry.
Yeah, I think that collaboration piece is a really good point. The Next Gen Fruit Growers, where's the next trip?
Oh, we are off to South Africa next year. Yep. So, you know, courtesy of our amazing partners who spend an awful lot of money to make sure that we can pay for those people to go out there, and people aren't spending a fortune and they're learning, bringing new practices home, all of those kind of things. So, 54 people over South Africa, look at top fruit. I'm going to go and look at a bit of citrus and technology like drone spraying. They're doing a lot of drone spraying and citrus out there. Blueberries, you know, big continent for blueberries, and certainly an ever-growing one. So, lots of things to see and do.
We'll put the links in the description, then people can check some of these resources.
Yeah, please.
We could talk all day, but brilliant having you on.
No, thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.